You don't. Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. We got a few people coming in. Guys, I'm actually going to grab my AirPods in one sec. Beautiful. And in the meantime, guys, if you could just get your cameras on, get yourself all situated and ready to learn webinar style. Oh, can you guys all hear me? Yes. Cool. Okay. Beautiful. Sweet. All right, let's begin. Thank you guys so much for being here and taking time out of your busy days and busy schedules to learn. I love that we get to do this on a Monday evening. That way, we're kind of clear of the daytime stressors and maybe a little more open to receive. So, as you guys know, this is a 30-minute webinar, and we're talking about head and heart connection. And I would love to kind of just hop right in because I know our 30-minute ones are kind of short. So, let's get right to it. Just a little pre-frame. I just want you guys to know that you are so welcome to use the chat as we move through this learning experience today. And if you have any questions and you'd like to hop in and ask or share, you're always more than welcome to. Cool. So let's jump in. Again, this is head and heart connection. And I figured we could go so many different directions with this topic because there's so much juice in it, especially with, really complementing a lot of the work we've been doing in our community recently. But essentially, we're talking about the battle between the head and the heart, right? The heart and the mind. And when we break it down, it's between feeling and thinking. It's between doing and being. And some would say too, there's like a little bit of work right there in the like masculine, feminine polarity around thinking, analyzing, assertiveness, figuring things out, and like surrendering and feeling, right? Which we'll get into as well today. Beautiful. So let's continue. Um, I'm having a little bit of technical difficulties with my mouse here. Oh, it's because I'm I'm plugged into Katie's monitor. I've never used one of these, so now I'm feeling like my mom when she's on her laptop. Okay, beautiful. Let's continue. All right, guys. So, for those of you watching this recording or those of you that are newer to working with me, my name is Ashley. I'm a coach, I'm a yoga therapist, a meditation teacher, and I speak at events. I have workshops, teacher trainings. I run a community of beautiful, like minded people. I also want to add in there like minded leaders because I find that there's so many leaders in our community now of mostly women, which is really interesting and beautiful. But people that are really committed to their evolution and growth. And our community is such a strong, incredible place of harboring knowledge and information and wisdom and access to ourselves being our own greatest teacher. I also work with some corporate coaching, obviously mind, body, soul. So we do a lot of movement around here as well as meditation practice and personal development. So that's kind of a little sneak peek into me and who's going to be offering this information to you tonight. And then let's move into some grounding. I used some really cute animations for you guys today. I figured you would love. So, obviously, if you're driving or in the car, please keep your eyes open. Otherwise, just plant your sitting bones or whatever part of your body is touching the earth, the couch, the floor, the bed, whatever's underneath you. Soften your jaw and close your eyes. Take a big breath. Inhale. Exhale, let it go. Two more like that. Feel your feet planted wherever they are. Inhale. Exhale. One more time, breathing in, fill up all the way to the top. Hold it, sip in more. And then as you exhale, let go of anything that's been harboring emotion today. And just feel a little bit of a release in the clenching you have around your control, your life, your day. Anything that's pulling you away from yourself. Coming back into the heart center, moving from the thinking mind of doing our jobs, doing our things, doing our daily tasks to just being here right now, receiving information through the heart center. Breathe in, breathe out. Lovely. And when you feel ready, just blink your eyes open and reorient yourself into the space. And we're just going to continue on our path. And again, guys, please use the chat. There's a lot of opportunity there to connect with each other and really feel the work through the relatability of some of the stories and personal shares that we'll go through today. So I'd love to start with my story. I had so much fun picking out, especially this specific icon, because my journey, I've been very head focused most of my life. Like I had a lot of unresolved, some big T, but mostly little T trauma, just like emotional in attunement, lack of connection, a lot of emotional maturity in the household growing up. So I didn't have a lot of resources, as well as just other things that happened. And what happened from that, what manifested from that, was pulling away from my heart. Because in my head, I could always strategize protection. I could always kind of take a look at my life and say, what are the things that I could implement that would keep me safe? And how can I get there? So it was always a figuring out. And those of you that are closer to me or like, in the community and interact with me on a daily basis, I'm kind of a how person. I'm not like, do I deserve that, or is this possible or not? It's like once I decide something's possible, it's how do I get there? And that is a very like analytical mind thinking, figuring things out, assessing, weighing out problems, risk, aversion. That's that process. And that can pull you really far out of your heart. So one of the biggest pieces of work I've actually had to do in my entire life, which is a lot more recent, is the journey from my head back into my heart, and trusting my intuition, trusting myself, and trusting the wisdom and the guidance that comes from the heart. I think because the heart is associated with feeling, we often will say, because the heart is associated with feeling, there's risk. So there's like possibility for negative um, end game or negative result, right? So if I can feel heartbroken, if I could feel sad, if I could feel grief, if I could feel anger, if I could feel fear, resentment, scarcity, right? Usually we would associate that maybe with, something negative, but we also kind of can tune in, tap into that heart center and feel the strength and the courage of your heart. Like when you have to have a difficult conversation, a lot of times it's your heart that you feel pounding or the butterflies in your stomach. That's your intuition. And those guidance pieces that are biologically and neurologically built in to our body and our nervous system are important pieces to connect with, because they teach us what is and is not okay in our life and what direction we should go. But when we block off one of these two parts, and for me, I spent a lot of time, my mom used to say this to me and it triggered me so hard. She used to say to me, your dad made you so hard. She would say that because I would like be like emotionless. And it was so triggering because I'm like, but that's not true. I'm so loving and I felt so caring and I felt so frustrated to hear that, because it like obviously it was my deepest wound, right? Like I ran around in protection. So when someone told me I was hard or guarded, especially my mom, who's like knows how to like totally push my buttons because she installed them, she can just give me that like moment of like, touch base, and all of a sudden I'm inflamed and I don't know how to get back into my heart because I feel like I want to protect more and more and more. And then the layers and the walls go up and up and up. So just kind of coming back into that reintegration has been, oh my God, so beautiful. Like the work that's come of that, just to continue in a nutshell, is my meditation practice has completely evolved. I put my spiritual practice first. It's number one. It's above my business. It's above my relationships. It's above literally everything. So if I don't visit my spiritual practice every day, which is a result of my heart work, um, I find myself to feel really disconnected with everything I do. So, yeah, that's been the journey for me. It's been really beautiful and I feel really grateful. So, I would love to hear from you guys. Like, how do you get in the way of your integration of head and heart together? Similarly to what I just shared, is there anything that comes to mind that you'd like to just hop in and share? Don't be shy, y'all.
I'll share.
Beautiful. Thank you.
I think for a long time, most people in this community know me and know that I went through a pretty tough time about 10 years ago. And that made me definitely close off my heart for like legitimately essentially 10 years. And led to all these issues of like trust and comfort and safety, security with relationships. And I think I was just being during that time like very like like you said, like logical about it, cut and dry, just like no feelings associated with the actions that I was taking, especially with people in relationships. And then I found, now I have kind of opened up my heart, but that like long period of time of doing that has made it difficult to like process getting back into that. I mean, it's great like in a way, but also just like very challenging.
Yeah, it's like the human condition, the fact that we have a heart that can be fucking shattered, right? And how like mortifying it is to go through that as a human being, but like no one's exempt.
Right, right. And you think it's easier to just avoid it, but then it's really not.
Yeah, right. But it levels the playing field. Like no one gets out of here alive. No one gets out of here without feeling. No one gets out of here without getting their heart broken. And it does often give us the interpretation that it's better to stay quiet or to stay back from love, for sure. Thank you for sharing. It's beautiful. Okay, let's continue. I would love to start separating right now. We're going to talk about the mind, manas. Manas in Sanskrit is like the mind stuff, which we'll talk a little bit more about the subdivisions of that shortly. But the mind is kind of defined as the manas term of the everyday conscious mind, and it's the coordinator of the senses and the mental screen in which thoughts and images occur. So, like, this is the busy mind, like that I'm thinking, I'm projecting the past, I'm thinking about the future, I'm anticipating what's happening. It's the masculine, it's the doing, it's the thinking, it's the brrrr that's kind of happening throughout the day. And while it is the everyday conscious mind, like there's a lot of subconscious that's going on there too, right? Like a good amount of it is just like autopilot. Um, but the mind also is here to figure things out, right? So the mind is here when we say, imagine like the biggest Achilles heel situation that you have in your life right now. We all have one, two, maybe seven, who knows? And if you stepped out of your Achilles heel and you looked at it as if your best friend was going through that, and I said, what would your advice be to that person? You could easily tap into your mind's eye and tell them exactly what to do, but yet you wouldn't necessarily know the footsteps of how to do it because it's not integrated into your heart, your spirit, your soul, maybe even your dharmic path. Who knows? Right? You got some suffering to do to work some shit out before you can go to the next level. So, when we talk about the mind stuff, that's like the analytical part of us that knows the difference. It knows what the right thing to do is. It doesn't always do it, but it at least gets that and it understands it. And so the mind stuff too also will put us in like, oh, my rational mind says like I work too many hours, this job doesn't pay me enough, blah 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 blah, and that could all be logical. But it's not the mind that blocks us from taking action on making a change. It's the heart stuff, right? So like the mind can look at something and totally have an understanding of it, but the gap between, as Car would say in our community a lot, the knowing and doing gap, that's kind of very similar to where the mind can come in because like you can logically understand something. It doesn't mean you're going to know how to plow forward or move forward. And at the same time, sometimes we get stuck in a rotation of feeling or stuck in a space of um just like in soul, in emotion, in that other space where we need a counterbalance, where we need to use our mind to think quick and find solutions. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes that's hard, when we're in our feeling body and all of a sudden we're like, oh, I know what I need to rationally do to get myself out of it, but I'm kind of like in secondary gain or like in an addictive space of wanting this feeling of suffering, or maybe I have something karmically to work out. Right? I have some affirmations for you guys for the mind, just to like tame the mind a little, or at least support you in connecting with this part of yourself. By being present, I am creating, shaping, and influencing what happens next, right? Over and over and over. Because again, our mind can talk us into all kinds of avenues. So if I choose to be present, that's a training of the mind. You know that mantra, the root word is manas, mind. Tra is train. Mantra means train the mind. Yeah. I am open to new possibilities. I am at peace. Sometimes like I'll experience life from the lens of anxiety. By the way, I just said that in a very intentional way. I didn't say I am anxious sometimes because I'm not claiming that as an I am. I experience life through the lens of anxiety sometimes, right? So here's the separation of identity. When I am in the lens of anxiety, oftentimes by the time I do get to catch myself, I'll say, what am I actually anxious about right now? And when I trace back in my mind's eye, I can't even actually find the root. And then I'm like, wait, there's actually literally nothing to be anxious about right now. I don't have somewhere I need to be. I don't have anything going on. I don't have a text I need to respond to. And it's like you go through the list and all of a sudden, just reckoning with yourself of like that mantra, I am at peace. All of a sudden it's like peace is right here. And yeah, granted, if there was something I had to worry about or feel anxious about, like I should still be able to cultivate peace, right? Because that's this work. However, sometimes we spin out in the mind space and the feeling, thought, pictures, images, memories, predicting the future so much that we don't even know how to become present and find our peace again. So like the mind stuff, both of these things are important. Just like fear and anxiety are important because they're guidance system tools. They're not good to be in all the time. So like how can you use your discernment, which we'll talk about shortly, discernment to know when to apply which part of yourself, how to connect the two and bridge the gap. Can you have peace knowing that eventually the feelings will pass, but not right now? That is actually one of my personal mantras, by the way, just in my personal practice, because like I know that if I go down the rabbit hole of the moment of the temporary thought that's disempowering of like, why would you be able to do this? No one cares. You're unworthy. Whatever the thing is, right? In the moment, because we all have it. I can go two directions. One direction is this is literally happening and it's only happening right now. So it's okay. I have full radical acceptance because this is a passing moment. This is not real. This is not evidence. This is not concrete. Or I can say, wow, that thought's interesting. Oh my God, look at all the reasons why like no one would want to be around me. Look at all the reasons why I'm so unworthy. And then you go down that rabbit hole. So it's like you have that moment of discernment and that's really comes down to your wisdom, right? Connecting with your wisdom. So let's talk about the heart really quick. Heart in Sanskrit, the translation is hridaya. Hri is like almost like a cupping of your inner mouth. Hridaya. It's the word for spiritual heart in Sanskrit. Get this. It translates to that which receives, that which gives, and that which moves. I can't think of a better definition for the heart, right? The heart, the emotional center, the space where we feel. Feminine, right? Feeling, connecting, being, right? Full surrender, nowhere to be. And it's just presence, right? Just undeniable, complete flow, flexibility, adaptability. And the thing that's interesting too about the heart that's also similar in the feminine space and feeling is that really there's emoting involved, emoting, explosion of emotions, right? Like the full permission, the full acceptance of every version of you expressed from the heart space, from the base of what you're feeling, not making any of it unwelcome, right? Your anger, your fear, your darkness, your sadness, your happiness, your joy, your ecstaticness, your silliness, like every part of you integrated, right? That's like where we express from. It's like the heart center, coming back to the heart center. Compassion, love, understanding, unconditionality. And we all know what that source energy feels like, right? It's pretty powerful. And that's why sometimes, when people are mistaking their biological chemicals in the honeymoon phase of dating someone and they skip all the red flags, like the heart's powerful, right? You know what I'm saying? And that's why you need the discernment of the mind as well, the manas. So here's some mantras, mind training for your heart. This is, I heard this one recently. I'm like in love with it. I am doing just this right now, and it's enough. I love that one. Because how much are we doing something that our body and our mind and our whole being craves doing, and we can't even be present with ourselves doing it because we're like thinking about something else? I'm doing just this. This is all I'm doing right now, and it's enough, right? That's really coming into the heart. I invite that which I feel even deeper, right? Leaning into feelings instead of being afraid of them. And then may the source of my actions come from a space of love, meaning like I'm going to operate wanting everyone to be in win-win. Like I want to win, but I want other people to win too. So that source of love is not about me getting ahead or ego self. It's inclusivity, ultimately. So I'm going to pause there and just give you guys an opportunity. If anyone wants to check in or ask a question, you can do it in the chat. The next concept we're going to go into is a pretty dense one. It's the Antakarana, which talks about the inner instrument of the mind. It's where we bring everything together. I'm excited, so I might just jump in unless you have a
I
burning
just wanted
question.
to point one thing.
Please.
That last one that you said made me think of that question that you had posted a while ago on social. It was like, is this coming from a space of love, or
For
what
love
was
or
the
from
other?
love?
For love or from love. And so when you said this, it just made me think of that question of like, am I approaching this for love, or am I approaching this from love? Like, am I trying to seek that, or am I coming from a place of like abundance of love and like giving that? So I just wanted to point that out. I thought that was great.
Thank you. Yeah, for sure. It's pretty amazing when you start to peel back the layers of your why, all of our actions, words, intentions. The why underneath it serves a lot of purpose around what the results are going to be. Actually, the why will usually tell you how successful or connected you are with what you're doing, right? Okay, so Anta Karana, the inner instrument. This is a little bit advanced psychology for you guys and yogic philosophy, but I know that you're going to understand it all and it's going to really help you integrate. So this is essentially the four functions of the mind. This is the way the four different functions of the mind works. You've got the ahamkara, the manas, the buddhi, and the chitta. We'll go through each one individually so you can understand. And you'll also see too, as we do this, examples as to how they all integrate together. And this ideally will be applicable to really specific things in your life that you can utilize it for. We'll start over here with manas, the lower mind. Manas is a lower mind through which the mind interacts with the external world and takes in sensory impressions and data. Manas questions and doubts, which can cause great difficulties if this tendency becomes excessive. So manas is like how we interpret reality. When I look outside, I see a dog walking down the street, and it's the same breed of a dog maybe that I had that passed away when I was younger, and then it brings back childhood memories, and all of a sudden my mind's going on and on replaying this. Or I'm hungry, I walk into the kitchen, I see like cookies laying out, and all of a sudden my mouth starts watering, and I'm like, great, let me grab, like, that's mind stuff, manas of sensory input. I hear something, I see something, I smell something, my mind starts to create and project a story around it and help my internal world understand what's going on around me based on my memories, all of the other things going on, which will interconnect, which you'll see with chitta, because chitta is like memories. So whatever is coming in through my senses, my sound, my smell, my taste, my touch, my sight. Ahamkara is I amness. So this is the ego, the individual ego, which feels itself to be a distinct separate entity. So when you're looking out of your eyeballs around at the world around you, the people, your relationships, everything, your job, your bank account, your paychecks, that is your feeling of like, I need to work hard so I can get ahead and buy myself a house so my life is good and I'm a separate entity than every other person, right? And it provides identity to our functioning, but it also creates feelings of separation, pain, and alienation, isolation, right? Feeling like you're not part of something. That's why when we feel a sense of belonging somewhere, like, we melt often. We're like, oh my God, I feel seen here. Like, I feel part of something. Because the natural order of the universe is, if you're born in the likeness and same drop of the ocean of consciousness, of like a greater pool of consciousness, we're all the same. So we all crave feeling that unique connection of bonding, of belonging, of connection, of integration. That is the separation from the ego, right? And that's actually a step towards enlightenment anyway. Buddhi is the higher mind. This is the wisdom body, right? So this is the aspect of our mind that's the doorway to inner wisdom. The word Buddhi comes from the word Bud, which means one who has awakened. Buddhi has the capacity to decide, judge, and make cognitive discriminations and differentiations. It can determine the wiser of two courses of actions. And if it functions clearly, and if manas, it can determine the wiser courses of two actions if it functions clearly, and if manas will accept its guidance. Meaning, if you hear something that sounds like someone saying something about you and you get triggered by that, and all of a sudden you start to create this story in your mind, and then you're going through the ego eye maker, and then the memories of all the shit that you heard and someone talked shit about you before, and then all of a sudden it's kicking up your shit, your Buddhi mind, your wisdom mind will say, hold on, like, we're actually on the path of evolution, honey, like, let's grow and let's talk about this. that could potentially not be the case, and we have evidence it might not be. So let's have an intelligent conversation, right? So the wisdom mind will come in and be like, hold your horses on your human suffering, right? And you'll see, like, through this, there's a lot of integration that has to happen, right? All of our parts need to come together. But just so you know, if you're spinning out and you find yourself in a state of, maybe anger or sadness or depression, or like maybe you feel like you're working through some big stuff, just know that these are all normal functions of the mind and aspects of the mind. Like your ego, I self that might feel sad when you're separated, that's part of the human experience. You're not alone, right? There's this beautiful place that we get to elevate our consciousness. We have the freedom to choose to wake up if we choose, but we also have the freedom to stay asleep if we choose that too. But staying asleep usually comes with more suffering. Waking up comes with more work, right? Like more effort, more intentionality, more specificity, a higher calling, which why wouldn't you want that? Because we're just spiritual beings having a human experience anyway. Okay, so Chitta. For those of you that follow the Yoga Sutras or you're studying that or you're interested in yogic philosophy, Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Yoga is the calming of the fluctuations of the mind. Chitta, if you just think of the word, like Sanskrit is very tonal, meaning a lot of times the word have the same meaning as the tone. So chitta is like like movement, a lot of energy. And that's the memory bank, which stores impressions and experiences. And while it can be useful, it can also cause difficulties if its functioning is not coordinated with the others, right? The absence of wisdom, buddhi, the competing voices of chitta often drive manas, right? Sensory, to take action in the world that's not so useful. Does that make sense? So if all of a sudden you're having these memories of things that happened before and you think they're going to happen again, or maybe impressions of the way someone is, but you don't have wisdom to check yourself when you're being an asshole, right? Then you hear something and it triggers you and then you go off, right? You don't have that wisdom that's a regulator. So all these people or all these places and parts of yourselves are really integrated, right? They come together, they work together. So checking in with these different pieces, like I would say manas and probably manas and chitta are like the places where you feel the most emotion, right? That's where like the emotional center is, heart center when we're talking about that. And then like the, buddhi, wisdom, and manas, that's like more mind stuff. And to bring these pieces together and say, like, what part of myself am I operating out of? Am I operating out of ego of wanting to be right? Am I operating out of wisdom of like doing the right thing even when no one's watching because that's the way I want to live my life? Am I operating out of past trauma of chitta and not allowing myself the freedom to move forward? I love this quote. The longest journey, yet shortest distance one can ever travel is between our head and our heart. So here's a couple tools for you guys to walk with. First one, which is one of my favorites, is to go contrary, meaning if you feel like you're overactive in thinking, you're like an analysis paralysis, like, oh my God, I wonder if they read my text. What do you think they're thinking? What do you think they're doing? Do you think they might have responded? Oh my God, I need to like, blah, 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 blah. Like go into your feeling body. How does it feel to notice this? Where in my body do I feel it? Can I anchor myself into a grounded place? Or if you're someone that's been crying for 7 days or you're like overly expressive and blah, 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 maybe you need to move more into thinking of like, how can I put this into more concrete action with steps and assertiveness, right? So using the tools of balancing, saying, which one am I overactive on? Which one can I balance out? The second one here is get curious. If you're doing an action from a place of love or fear, right, Ash? So from love or for love, meaning the reason why this is helpful is because if you're moving for love, like you're trying to get something or from a place of scarcity, it's really challenging to connect your head with your heart because your feelings, your trauma body is probably in a place of clenching, right? Same with doing something for love. When you're doing something for love, you're a little more generous, a little more intentional, a little more specific about staying from an open-hearted place. You don't have the expectation, so you don't get caught in the mind, body, heart conflicted place unless you're overgiving, which means you kind of need to tune yourself and check yourself on that, right? Perspective. From love, yes. Sorry, from love, the last one. Use fear as a tool and ask yourself, what if? Play out the worst case scenario, dig deeper and go to the root. So for example, again, if you're finding yourself really conflicted, my heart really wants to stay in this relationship, but my head knows that there's no future in it and like there's nowhere else we can go from here, right? What's the worst that could happen? What if, okay, so what if you leave, and what if this person, like, what's the worst? Oh, well, I'll never meet anyone ever in this world of billions of fucking people. I'll never meet anyone, right? Like, I won't be able to have a child before I'm like at a certain age, or I won't be able to get married, or whatever it is. I'll never be successful. Okay, so play it out to the very end. What's underneath that? What's underneath that? What's underneath that? And get to the root of your fear. Like, know yourself. If you know the deepest, 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 deepest thing that you're totally afraid of, you are equipped to now have a conversation with that thing. But if you don't even know what it is, it's going to keep biting you in the ass blindly and unconsciously driving your actions and your decisions, right? So use fear as a tool. Last one here is to connect with your senses. This is a portal between your brain and your body, right? Like that's the only portal. Your senses are telling you pictures, sounds, information, and then sending nervous system impulses through your body. And then all of a sudden, when you're in your mind, you can discern from a place of feeling, and you can feel from a place of understanding. We love practices such as breathing techniques, movement, meditation, things like that. Restorative yoga is really helpful. Body sensing practice, yoga nidra. Those are all great for sensory-based work to connect head and heart. I'm not going to have you guys do this during the webinar. That wasn't my plan. You can take a photo of this if you want to journal, if you're feeling really integrated right now. And this is just an awesome prompt to play with is, of course, I always love to offer you guys the prompts from a place of like, do it from, like, no, don't worry about grammatical correctness or writing full sentences. Just do it from a place of flow, right? Like just let your hand go. Bullet list, paragraphs, whatever feels good. And then from a whole and integrated place, meaning if you used your head and your heart together, what conversations have you been avoiding? What actions have you been procrastinating on? Or habits have you been missing the opportunity to include in your life? What has been in the way of moving courageously from your heart and strategically from your intellect together? And I would say it'd be helpful for you not to answer this as like a call and response, but read it again, read it one more time. Let the question sit and integrate in your body and take a few breaths, and then journal from that place. Because journaling should never feel like a homework assignment. It should feel like something that is being pulled forward from the depths of you, and you have to actually create a container for that. Like make it sacred, honor it. So screenshot this. If you're down to do the journal, you can take a picture with your phone, whatever feels good. And you guys have the opportunity to spend as long as you want on this journaling prompt. And you're also welcome, if you're in any of our chats or our challenges or programs, you can like post your results, especially in our membership chat, guys. Like that's a good place to write your journal prompts if you feel safe and vulnerable enough to share. But I know it also helps kick stuff up for people and it opens doors for people. So we always invite that in. Beautiful. Well, I am so grateful for our time together, you guys. And I am so proud of us for staying on time and getting us out relatively in 30 minutes and covering everything. Booyah. I would love to hear your feedback, you guys, your thoughts, your ideas, any of your reflections. Feel free to reach out to me directly or hit up the chat. We've got a lot of opportunities to connect in community through that. And keep an eye out for webinars that are going to be in February. Thanks for joining. I love you guys. Have a great rest of your evening.